Welcome, friends. My name is Sophie, and I am a yoga health guide on her journey for truth, hydration, and wholeness. I am grateful our paths have crossed. Enjoy the episode. Hello, and good evening. And Yogi Sophie's back, and it's been a minute, but as I said, I'm not holding this podcast or myself or what needs to come through to any expectations, any standards other than what's good, what's right, what's going on right now. What is going on right now, Smidgy? Thank you. We're laying in a field and it is twilight. Maybe just beyond twilight. The sun is set behind the mountains. The last glimpses of orange have left the sky, and I'm here today after another cycle, spiral. Just to kind of talk about my experience coming out of a state of overwhelm that I've been in the past month, and to talk about how important it is to not force and to not bypass ourselves. And this is an interesting theme that I've come back to again and again, realizing on these more subtle and even subtler levels how much I bypass myself and my suffering. And I do it from a place of I'm strong, I can handle this is good enough, I should be able to handle this, I should be good enough to hold that, I can make it through. And it's sort of a story too. Allowing myself to bypass checking in and truly seeing what's going on allows me to escape via excuses or pity or stuckness. And on the other side of things, it also expresses itself as working too much, doing too much, spreading too thin, and not being able to recognize when it needs to be a no. So boundaries coming in there. And you're gonna pop. That's just kind of the gist of the story. And sometimes we need to, You're gonna burst at some point if you don't put your foot down. But guess what? Every time you burst or you pop, you learn. And I say this just have being fresh off one of my tiny little explosions. And it's explosions of emotion. It's explosions of frustration and anger and stress and not feeling powerless with my no. And I bypass myself and say, well, if you could just do this or that, you'd feel better and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I'm also realizing there's some parts of me that have not been healed that are still screaming to walk through certain transformations before I can force myself to do another thing. And that's just the thing, too. I read this post the other day. Fasting should not be forced. If you feel like you have to force it, then you probably shouldn't do it. And I did not raise it, and those of you who are more aware will know that it's not an excuse to just never fast. Because there are days when I've woken up and it has been effortless. I'm like, you know what? I just don't feel like eating today. And so I don't. And then there are days, the more stressed ones, where I need a little bit of comfort. And that's because there's that inner child whose issues have not been addressed yet. I have not gone back and retrieved that fragment of myself. And so then we need to approach with grace these shadows, these little children within us, these pains. Because ultimately, this is bigger than fasting, right? This is anything. If you have to force something, and this is different than putting in concentrated, loving effort. If you have to force something out of fear that you'll be less than love, less than anything, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. And I've been trying to force so much, yet again. In a less obtuse way than before, yes. These circles or spirals or whatever you want to call them, these cycles, they become less and less off my path. And I'm oscillating closer to my center. Every time I veer off, it's a little bit closer to home than I would have veered off before. And I'm really grateful for it. I just think that we need to lean into what feels good in that moment. And by good, it doesn't necessarily mean ice cream, although that has a place. And you'll know when it's okay. Your body will tell you if you ask, is this okay? Is this what I need? If it feels good and so fulfilling, lean into that. Maybe you wake up and need movement. Maybe you wake up and need to go back to sleep. Maybe one day is a green juice day, and maybe the next you want some eggs. One day you wake up, you feel like fasting, the next day you don't. And can we just be okay with this, please? Can we be okay with following our rhythms of nature? We are of nature, so can we be okay just releasing into her? Releasing into the fluctuations that we are? Because, God damn, it is so stressful out in the world today. And I think the world's issues combined with my issues recently, it's just been so much, and I just want to turn it off. And then I'm also doing things that remove my layer of protection, be it physical or energetic, from the world. And then I begin to feel it even more. And if you know me, you know I'm not drinking and I don't smoke. And so my biggest out right now is coffee, and I'm just kind of allowing myself to have that one. But for me, there's no real running away. Well, it was workaholicism, and I've been out of that for a while. And that's just the thing, too. I was listening to a wonderful podcast about spiritual bypassing and the story of the Bhagavad Gita. And it's by, who did this podcast? It was the Yoga Teacher Resource podcast. And it was the podcast interviewing Kaya Mindlin. But it spoke about how, it might all get overwhelming, and you can go away and you can live in the mountains and eat nothing but fruit and do breath work and yoga all day and probably live in bliss, but it's ignorant bliss. And ultimately, it won't last, because your shadows will find you. The inner child will begin to scream louder and louder and louder until you actually address them. And so we have to take care of what's right in front of us. And for me, it's allowing myself to be gentler on myself. I keep thinking I'm good, and then I swing right back into not so good because I pushed too hard. And I'm learning to balance that swing of the pendulum to where it doesn't swing so hard. It stays a little bit closer to center. It knows when to activate, and it knows when to rest, and activate and rest, and oscillate between the masculine and the feminine, all from a place of centered love. Maybe this makes sense to you, maybe it doesn't. And if it resonates, then maybe this is something we can chat about. I'm always down to have chat sessions. Or if it's something that you'd like to dive into a little deeper with some more stable principles of wellness, we can do that too. For right now, I leave you with a poem, actually. Part of what's allowing or what's coming through as I make this space for myself to thrive is I really like poetry. I used to write it when I was a kid, and isn't it funny how everything we like to do as a kid comes back to us? So my tip there is never fucking lose it. Okay. Aged summer is dried brush amongst a seasoned field of green. The final splashes and screams of children who refuse to leave the pool. Energies preparing to turn in with final flourishes of flora and fun. Even the river seems to flow a bit slower as cicadas and jazz fill the nourished air, oscillating between fast as a hummer and as slow as mud. I let go and follow the sap. I hope this message finds you well. Namaste.